It being 6 o'clock on April 20th,
Yeah.
2022.
Here we go.
I'll call to order the meeting of the Carver Redevelopment Authority. Joanna Layton is not feeling well, so she will not be joining us this evening. We have a short agenda because we have, other people have meetings at 7. So we will get this show on the road. And basically, the only thing that's on the agenda that we'll handle tonight that I think is a review of town meeting, all 3 nights. Does anyone want to take a night? And our articles that we'd worked so hard on all passed. There were a few little bumps in the road on presentation night, which I have to thank Avery for coming to, for keeping his wits about him when there were those that didn't know what to do.
Yeah. I got a couple things to say about that.
Do you want to say anything first?
Well, I just want to say that we passed almost all of them. One of them, which was the
Right, that's true.
The Earth Removal
Right.
Committee, Article 18, we permanently put on permanent hold.
Right.
Because it was relatively vague and not specific to what was needed for this particular project. It was too over encompassing and town-wide. So I think that since what the developer is looking to accomplish, was looking to accomplish with that article is not time-sensitive, and there are other avenues to accomplish that, either through the ZBA or reformulating the article for our next town meeting, either in
Right.
the fall or next year, and making it a little bit more finite and specific to the Green Business District, and just going from there. But other than that, it was touch and go, but I'm glad we got there. And I
We
think
did.
that and it was, the votes were fairly overwhelming, so
The
I
the
felt
votes
good about
were easily 2/3
Yeah.
margin that we needed.
Yeah.
So the 65-foot height increase was the first one. And then there were a few smaller ones that, driveway widths and light poles and things like that, that began to pass very quickly. What kind of struck me is that there did not seem to be any of the anticipated questions about traffic.
None. It was crazy.
There was not. The kinds of things that we have spent a year trying to solve, or at least have the appropriate answers for, and being sidetracked at our initial presentation and not being able to present what we had worked on presenting, which was a cohesive overview of all the zoning articles at once, which led into the individual zoning articles. That was not allowed to happen on a call by the moderator.
a technicality. Well,
Technicality.
he called for a vote. It was voted
Yeah.
on to not allow us to do the presentation. So I don't think people understood what that vote was for, but it's, it's done.
But we will save Stephen Cole's presentation in case we ever need it again.
Yeah.
We did pay a lot of money for it. But all of those are passed, and after we do some short comments on town meeting, we'll talk about where we go from here. But Mr. Maher?
Okay, I'm not going to mince any words about this one. I was very happy the way that things turned out, but I was really disgusted with some of the processes that we saw on town meeting night. We had a couple of people there who were very vocal about some things. They indicated that they were also supportive and were going to vote for it, but at the same time were the ringleaders in seeing that the RDA was suppressed in trying to put information out. Just a couple of disingenuous phonies that contradicted themselves in the same sentence, saying that, oh, we're all for this, we're going to vote for it, yet we're going to suppress the RDA from providing valid, coherent information to the rest of these 170 voters within the auditorium. That was just a horrible situation, entirely uncalled for, and where these people are coming from, I don't know.
You know,
There's
this,
also issues of, what I need to do too is give high regard and compliment to both Sharon and Savory for being blindsided by this. Because we had a very, not really lengthy, but certainly more than 3 minutes, presentation to be made that could not be made. And there was some quick thinking on the feet, and I've been there myself over the years, you know? It's not easy when you get blindsided like that and say, what am I gonna do? I got 3 minutes I gotta figure out, the most important things to say, so highly compliment to both Sharon and Savory for doing that. And the other thing that I want to speak to is there was some sense of questioning the integrity of the fire department, which was entirely without cause and without any sense of reality. Anybody that questions the chief, the fire department, or any of our public safety officials, chiefs, and their departments does so without any sense of knowledge, coming from a point of ignorance. And those are 3 chiefs and 3 departments that are as good or better than any of those in any town around. And I just thought it was a horrible show for these people to come and say these kinds of things, suppress information from a room full of voters, entirely uncalled for. And it's just, we're fortunate that it came out right. And again, compliments to both Sharon and Savory. And I just needed to say that.
thank you.
Thank you. No.
Yeah. I would say, notwithstanding what I felt to be the fairly obvious and I would say immaterial concerns about, what was, in my opinion, behind the challenges that were being raised, felt to me like we weren't really dealing with issues that were about the project or the articles. We were getting into technicalities that
Procedural technicalities,
Sure,
yeah.
that lent themselves to, felt to me like some people felt like they should have been perhaps consulted more, which surprised me considering the votes of a certain committee that then seemed to be at least members of that committee seemed to be raising the concerns. Anyway, notwithstanding all of that, I echo Pat's comments about the way you were able to adapt, which I thought was great, and I'm glad that it turned out well. But what was good to me was that it felt like the people in the meeting, and if we consider them to be speaking for the town, which I do, they didn't really care about that, and they seemed to appreciate the value of the project. I was glad to see the vote totals were well in favor of doing this, and it felt like the steam sort of came out of the challenge once we saw those really big positive totals on the first couple of items.
Right.
And, we, like you said, we didn't get those challenges or questions that we were expecting about some of the other items, I think, that are valid questions and related to the project, but just tells me that it feels like the town either A, has a good pulse on it, or B feels like there's enough benefit to the project to not worry about those things as much, which is good, because I think that it will have a lot of benefit to the town, even if there are a few more trucks at that intersection.
You know, one of the things that occurred to me later as I'm processing what happened is that one of the things that we feared the most was that people were going to get up and say, why is this the first time I'm hearing about this? We didn't, which I hope points to the fact that we got enough information out there that there were enough records or minutes or videos to watch, or our town presentations that we did through March. But the other thing that kind of concerns me is that there might be some form of a backlash that says, when we were at town meeting, I didn't know this is what we were voting on, which points to the fact that a technicality, or one that was interpreted as such, prevented us from giving what was a comprehensive and concise.
Sure.
I will say, we had worked with Sean Clancy, the moderator, for 2 weeks even.
Yep.
And when he said, I'll give the first speaker 3 minutes, and then between Savory and Stephen Cole, who was going to do the PowerPoint, I cut my remarks down by 2/3. You guys were not going to get introduced. I was going to have to cut that part out. But I had all of that ready to go, and when Mr. Clancy said, you know, you can either go or not go, it was, so the presentation is not going to happen. I've got to give some kind of an intro, and then I will hand it off to the much cooler head in the room. My head was cool, but it was just blank at the time. So,
Well, it didn't show.
but I do think that the yes/no chart that Savory worked really hard on
That was good.
Yeah.
might have been the selling point.
Sure.
Because while we, in our little corner over there, had kind of a sense of, we're not getting out what we came here to say, that, and the fact that we'd had it as a handout for anybody who had it, it was also going to be up on the screen, but being able to very quickly say yes and yes with the CBA, or yes and no CBA. And I agree with Pat that I thought that the police and fire and safety took a few shots in that they felt it was bribery, and if you could have been over in that corner and felt the heat coming off these guys, staying very calm, but it was radiating. And again, it was a situation where we did not have the opportunity to say, you know, the chief can come up to the table and say, well, we can't fight a fire properly on a 40-foot, 1.8 million square foot building. But I can tell Hillwood I can't do it at 65 either, and Hillwood says, let's talk. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
I mean, but none of the, you know, and there was a moment there that I did not believe the chiefs were going to be able to speak.
I was glad that somebody asked them directly a question.
Someone asked them,
Yeah.
someone from the floor asked
Yes.
them, because we had been given an indication that if they couldn't speak directly to an article, and that's where Chief Weston said, yeah, well, they all speak to all the articles. So it worked out. It definitely worked out.
I just have one more comment to make.
Go ahead.
And I was very close to getting up to the microphone on a couple of occasions, but I was also sitting with the FinCom, and I could see the crowd, and I could
Yeah.
read the crowd, and I could get their sense from their reaction, from their applause, from their not applause, and so forth. And I saw this coming along as, okay, this is going to work. This is going to work. And so I said, I'm better off not saying anything.
I felt the same way.
I was ready, and if they were going to call 3 minutes on Chief Weston, then I was going right up. And I would have said some of the things that I already said tonight. So I just wanted to put that into, and I will probably not say any more tonight. Good, thank you.
There's always citizens' participation.
I could tell too, where we were up in that corner, sitting on the steps, waiting our turns to speak, and you know, as they were debating each of the articles, and I could see the pendulum swinging
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yep.
And you know, as Sharon said, there was not a lot of conversation about traffic and building height.
No.
And it could be that the process questions that were brought up distracted everybody and changed what their focus was on,
Yes.
away from the project and more towards the process. And that was something that they were obviously fed up with, the fact that there was a fight over process.
People were very, I mean, there was a gentleman behind me who actually said at one point, this is why nobody comes to town meeting.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
and you could tell people were feeling very put on, or very put upon, I should say, by, especially after the night before, where it got very
Yeah.
moving things around and technical, and once we started getting chippy, if you want to put it that way, everyone had enough. They didn't want to do it. Everyone knew what was happening. It was a distraction.
I think the electorate was informed. I think they knew about the project. As Sharon said, we didn't get any, why is this the first time hearing about it? I think through all the avenues that we used, through the internet, through the newspaper, through the meetings we had, even though they were poorly attended, they were attended, and people, social media, there was something on all 3 pages.
Yep.
You know,
We had the
everything
website going.
Carver helping, yeah, we had the website. So, you know, the people who generally come to town meeting were informed.
Right.
They were not surprised by the articles in front of them. And I think that helped. I also, you know, there were citizens that came up to the microphone who said very, very good things in favor of this project. You know, I can't remember everybody, but Mr. Dunham said very good things. Mr. Germain
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
came up and basically said, it's going to happen one way or another. One way we get a lot of money, the other way we don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
He does have a way.
yeah, and there were others, and of course the chiefs. There were Chief Weston who got up and spoke. They were sincere and succinct, and I think people listened. You know, when people were talking, there was no other chatter. People were paying attention. So. It was interesting to watch the pendulum swing, and I could tell also by just announcing a little, you know, what each subsequent article was, and I finished each one as saying it's as simple as that, so the numbers of the articles got higher, the applause got louder. So I could sense that as well, that it was that we'd turned the corner, so to speak. So it was good. It was a good feeling.
For sure.
Stephen Cole and I were debating when Savory was at the microphone at one point, and I said, I only get one more time to go up because I opened it up. And Stephen was basically, hey, don't change what's working.
Exactly, yeah.
Because I was the one who introduced him, so I only got one more time up to the microphone. And
You
I
could have spoken for each article. You get 3 minutes twice, or 3 times for each article.
True. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably true.
Yeah, because they open it for debate after it's been motioned. So you start over, but it's okay.
Everything's fine.
Get the desired outcome.
Exactly. We got all the
You got
rules
the-
worked out.
That's the only thing that matters. is
That's
the
true.
And after the night before, I wasn't sure I was going to feel that way the next day, so
I was actually glad that we were not on the same night as those other things.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Some
Yeah.
comments that were made in the crowd didn't
Yeah.
seem to me like they would have been pro-project.
Yeah.
right. Or it might have gone, it might have been more of an uphill battle, and we might have gotten more of the questions that we were expecting and were prepared to answer.
Sure.
So, just so everybody knows, we were prepared to answer.
There you go.
But now, if we can put that one to bed, our next move is Savory and I talked last night a little bit about trying to meet up with the planning board and start trying to get ahead of it a little bit. And I know that Hillwood has some procedural things that they want to try and get ahead of. Whether, it's been in the past that when we've made zoning changes in a spring town meeting, people have gone ahead and just assumed that they are effective, and people have applied for permits under different zoning changes, whether they be big or small, before they've been approved by the Attorney General. I got the sense last night that the Hillwood people would like to wait until these have been approved. Or they were asking about the timetable a
Yeah.
little bit more
Yeah, I think they're a little
cautious.
reticent to,
Yeah.
Well,
to go right ahead right now.
You gotta assume, given the scope of what they do, they've probably seen some negative outcomes before. Like, if there are problems out there to be found, they've probably paid the price for it or know how it could be a problem.
Well, they don't want to start going with full-fledged plans.
Exactly.
And all the spending
Yeah.
with that, because there are some things that are in our design laws that they can't meet easily just because of the scope of the size and scope of this project. You know, our design bylaws are more geared towards smaller buildings. You know, we don't have anything that addresses a 1.2 million square foot building. And there are certain things that have to happen in that building that are not part of what are allowables, or they aren't identified as being something that is allowed by right. It's not forbidden, but it needs to be talked about. We talked last night after the meeting, just very briefly. As Sharon mentioned, we should probably get on the agenda for the planning board after Election Day. And basically go there and looking at our at the urban redevelopment plan, which identifies and defines our role, to go to the planning board and saying, okay, this is what it says we do here, but we want to do this as an adjunct to you and help. You know, how can we help? This is not only a large project, but it's going to be time consuming for anyone and everyone involved in it. So if you're able to add 5 people in a sense to your team working on this, you know, the 5 RDA members along with the 5 planning board members, to start tackling some of these things, then you know, set a list of the things that you need done and assign us things to do. So we should do that with them after they have the new board and they've had their elections within the board for chair and vice chair.
They have a meeting next Tuesday.
26th.
So I would say do the reorg, and then we'll have to do the same. Then set up a meeting with, or contact them about getting on their agenda,
Yes,
just as a discussion point.
right, and we can do that through
Tom? or-
Mr. Bott.
Yep.
Yes. I also, going back to what I talked about, people speaking at town meeting, Mr. Bott was very good as well, and just reminding people that we did have the joint meetings and that changes were made that were asked for by the planning board, which we made. So, so along with that, we also spoke to Mac Utsi was there last night, as was Mark Pacheco, about having a representative from Hillwood come into our next meeting, just to kind of outline where they think things should be going, and what they're expecting their next steps will be or can be. And I said, it doesn't have to be Mac. Mac doesn't have to fly up here from Carolina. It can be someone local, who's we've met before, Nathan or somebody
Or John.
else. Or John.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that we talk about later on tonight when we're talking about our next meeting, putting that on the agenda and inviting someone there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I indicated it would probably be a couple of weeks. We'll
Yeah.
get through the election, we'll wait out a week for the planning board, then we'll probably do it, our next meeting, 2 weeks or so from tonight.
Right.
2.5. Maybe 3. Maybe 3.
Don't cut it too close, I got surgery coming up.
Oh, that's right.
So,
We can do it at your house, we'll just change the venue. But that's kind of where we stand right now, is the amendments have passed. And what we see now is a collaborative working together with the boards. I think we take advantage of Tom Bott as long as we have him. I don't know what his plans are from here on out. And working with Hillwood and seeing where they go. They still have to finish their due diligence on some things and finalize their deal.
Right.
We talked about maybe, at some point we have to have, create an MOU with them as the preferred developer.
right,
Or-
and we can base that off the MOU we have with Group
Right.
44, along with the things that Stephen had outlined
Right.
in his original MOU with them.
Right. We had had kind of a working document kind of circulating around, but we've kind of felt that it might have been just a little bit too much gas before town meeting, actually. And I felt they didn't actually have possession of the property yet. So our MOU with Route 44 is still in effect.
Have we heard from Route 44?
Oh, yeah.
They're happy?
Yeah, I
They'll be
think
happy
so.
when they get the check.
They'll be-
Fair, fair.
There is a couple of things with Route 44 coming up that I didn't know if Tom was going to be here tonight, but that we'll handle at the next meeting, I think. Just some minor cleanup title issues that they may have. But that'll just be a process that'll have to either be started and begun. But we'll talk about that. It has to go through Tom, and then it'll come back to it by way of us. Is there anything else?
If the planning board's meeting on the next Tuesday, the 26th, they probably won't meet again till the 10th.
I can't call up the meeting calendar. I only can call up, I was trying to get it to the next month. Because,
It would typically be the 10th.
do they do the second and?
Yeah, second and the fourth.
Second and fourth standing?
Okay, so,
I would want to make it one more after that, in the event that we can get Hillwood here first. Do you think we need to see Hillwood first?
no, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, you think we need to go to the planning board first? Or we need to?
I think that we have to engage with the planning board first.
Okay,
I think that that's the right thing to do.
okay. That'll give Hillwood a little extra time anyway.
Right.
Hang on, let me try calling.
So then the question becomes, do we ask them to our meeting on the 3rd? Do we ask the planning board to join us instead of us waiting till the 10th and joining them?
We're going to have a meeting on the 3rd?
Well, that's 2 weeks from tonight, isn't it?
It's 13 days. I have zoning board that night.
Select board too.
And when do you have FinCom? Are you guys all done?
The what?
Is FinCom all done right now, or? Kind of,
Kind of, I think.
okay.
I'm not sure, I don't. This isn't my phone. I
So-
have with me tonight, but
All right, well, let's see if we can set our meetings for May right now.
All right, well, you have ZBA on the 10th, on the 3rd and the 10th.
Yeah.
According to the calendar.
Yeah, I do. And what day do you have Concom? Is it the 11th and the 25th?
No, the 4th and the 18th, first
Fourth
and third.
So 1st and 3rd. Do you like to do them during the same week? RDA and Concom the same week, get it over with?
It doesn't matter to me.
And your surgery was when?
The 13th.
13th. I thought it was the 23rd.
No, it's the 13th.
Okay, so we... All right, well, let's go ahead and set a meeting for the 3rd.
We can do 5:30.
We can do 5:30 now.
Yes, you can. Do it every time.
All right, why don't we set...
And you can watch it on TV later.
So why don't we set May 3rd at 5:30? And I'll get this room.
All right.
And do you want me to check in with Mac, or is that the one, wait a minute, which
No,
one?
I think we should talk to Tom Bott and
Tom Bott
ask him
first.
to talk to the planning board.
Okay. And then the second planning board meeting is when?
It'd probably be the 10th.
Be the 10th? And that would be at 7, so I could not be there.
Right, well,
You can-
I can be.
See, everybody's going like, phew, thank God. Okay, so we'll ask about the 10th being the planning board meeting. And then we would meet again on the 17th, right?
You would, I wouldn't. I can't, I will be non-movable.
But can you Zoom?
I can Zoom. I can do that.
Okay.
I know how. We have the technology.
We have the technology. Okay, so a possibility of Zooming.
All right, so I think that we have our meeting on the 3rd. We talked to Tom Bott and asked him to ask the planning board to join us at that meeting.
The planning board meeting, we assume would be the 10th?
Right, but we asked the planning board to join us at our meeting on the 3rd.
Oh, okay. A joint meeting or just ask reps?
Just ask a representative to
A
come.
rep. Okay,
Leave it up to them. If they
Leave
want
it
it to be
them.
a joint meeting, they can have that, but that would be
Okay.
2 weeks in a row for them. But give them the opportunity to do that. And then we could ask, we could stay on our schedule of having someone from Hillwood come in on the 10th.
okay. Oh, no, the 10th you're going to the planning board meeting. The 17th would be possibly with Hillwood.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But I can't be at that. I can Zoom.
You can Zoom,
I don't like Zoom.
huh?
I don't like Zooming. It's okay.
Just do it on your deck. I like looking at your pond, your little lake back there.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see how you
I'm going to
feel.
be on painkillers, so just,
Oh, even better.
yeah.
No
If
filter.
I start singing.
Wow.
Best meeting of your life.
Maybe you can share some of those with the rest of us, too.
No filter. It'll be awesome. All right, and judging with what the planning board does, if they change their schedule, I'll check in with Tom tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so I will check all of that in with Tom tomorrow. And that seems to be where our schedule is headed from here on in.
And I got town administrator screening committee coming up, too.
Do you have people to screen?
We do.
Okay. Do you know what days you're going to be meeting? Is that going
Well, our
to
first one's going to be next Tuesday,
Yeah, the 26th.
26th, yeah. From that point,
be? You'll
I
set
mean-
the schedule. Okay.
I don't know what the schedule's going to be, or what day or what time. Not sure.
Okay, well, I'll get these dates to Roger, who I assume is coming on board. And I believe Joanne did not have anything to report on 94th Street.
I'm glad it's on the agenda, though.
Hey, what would we do without it, you know?
Well, again, I wasn't sure whether Tom was going to be here, and I don't know whether they've gone in front of the planning board. I mean, things have been a little out of whack for the last 2 weeks, more so than usual, I should say. So I didn't know if the guy who was buying 94th Street, I haven't heard anything. They're going directly through Joanna and Kathleen O'Donnell, the attorney, so we can get an update on that. Their P&S runs out on June 30th, so they still have time. And I believe he was trying to make everything conform. So it was just site plan review and not any kind of a special permit. Are there any other member comments that haven't been commented
For our next meeting
on the 3rd?
on the 3rd, I think we should put on the agenda the website and its maintenance.
Okay,
As you know, we've been paying Paul Kelly a monthly stipend to keep it going. We said all along we're going to keep the website and make it more of an informational hub going forward for when meetings are
when meetings start to occur and,
happen on this, whether it's planning board, whether it's open public hearings, whether it's our stuff. So that's going to reduce the time that Paul is going to need to maintain it, because there are going to be months when nothing happens.
okay,
So I think that we should just reach out to Paul and see if we can review our agreement with him and make it more of an hourly
okay,
Yeah.
rate as opposed to a monthly contract. So
Okay.
something just to discuss with him at our next meeting, so.
I wonder if, speaking of the website, and I don't know if it would need to be edited first, but maybe it could be, I don't think this is already there, but could there be like a read-through of Stephen's presentation up on the website? Do you know what I mean? Like,
We could do that. It exists as a PowerPoint, it's
that's
just
just it.
as,
Have like a voice track
it just
behind
didn't
it.
have a voice track, right, because Stephen was,
yeah, but he was really going to read what was there.
oh, okay,
I think that he was just going to expand upon what.
What
he'd
you
written,
saw.
But the bullet points are there.
I
okay.
mean, we paid for the presentation.
Yeah.
Might as well put it to use. It's-
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
Votes are in the barn, people could page through it and
Yeah.
ask questions.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
that's a good idea.
Would that be something consensus would handle, or can Stephen do it? or-
Well, I have to talk to, after we have our meeting on the 3rd and talk to Paul Kelly, we have to arrange with consensus to make sure that Paul has full control over the website again, taking it
Okay.
back from Courtney, who works for Consensus out of Colorado, and making sure that Paul understands all of her language
Okay.
in putting the website together, so that he can change anything, delete, add, and make sure that all the functionality is still there without her involvement. So even though Consensus is still going to be involved with this project through Hillwood, it's going to be probably lesser in dealing with the town
Right,
here.
right, but we want this to become still kind of the hub of
Yes.
information, because there's still a lot of information on it.
Sure.
And there is more to come, especially if when they get into the permitting process.
Right, there are a lot of special permits needed for a number of different things. And there is still the need for public outreach to let people understand what these are and why they're needed. And Consensus is still going to be doing that, and they're probably going to use our website to do that. But from the standpoint of the amount of information that we put on there in a short amount of time, that's
Yeah.
probably not going to be happening.
Okay.
So
Do you want me to reach out to Paul?
I'll talk to him.
Okay.
I'll bring him in.
Is there anything else? My only comment is that I appreciate Paul Costas, and he will be leaving us tonight. This will be his last meeting. I know. Can't believe it yourself. He stepped up and volunteered and took a one-year appointment, and it turned out to be the most intensive year that I've ever served on out of my 4 so far. And I thank you for stepping up. I understand why this is not something that works in your schedule right now, especially with traveling with your job, but We appreciate everything that you did for us and for the town.
I
So
second
thank you.
that, and,
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much. Someday, your kids will be grown.
Yeah.
And you'll be retired,
There
and
you
there are no term limits.
There are no
so you can
term
come back.
limits,
There we go.
so you can come back. You too can be one of the faces that you constantly see up on the stage, apparently.
I thoroughly enjoyed working with you all for the past slightly over a year when you factor in those
Yep.
first few months. I wish I could have stayed. Unfortunately, my job requirements have changed a little bit, but at least now you can all meet at a time that's more reasonable and not requiring me to buzz home from Quincy.
Well, I think the Tesla came in handy when it
Ah,
would
you
drive,
know.
when it would drive you here from Quincy while
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
taking calls.
I do appreciate you all being very considerate of my schedule. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was,
I do have one question, though, for you.
Sure.
Why are you wearing a Washington Nationals shirt?
because I'm a Washington Nationals fan.
Okay, fine.
Just wondering.
I used to be a lifelong Red Sox fan, and I can't stand John Henry, so I've moved on.
Okay,
Wow.
There you go.
a spite choice.
That's it. After 08 or 09,
I
think it
couldn't
was,
stand Tom Yawkey, but that didn't stop me.
I made a choice. I said, this man is not a great owner. I'm moving on.
You're Manchester Union, not Liverpool, right?
Let me tell you, I got my reasons, but
Okay.
What do you need?
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion?
Wait, did I put minutes on here? Let me just check. I didn't even bother.
All right, we'll do it next time.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Was there a second? Somebody, okay.
Who made the motion, I'm sorry?
I did.
Savory. And we're adjourned. Thank you.